Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio. I'm Ben Crowe, and this is episode 54 of Luthiers Questions Time. I always add an S on the end of that. What can I say? It is Sunday evening, it is late, it is cold, and I'm here to answer your questions about guitars, luthiery, life, the universe, and everything. First question of the day is, how's it going? How's it going, everybody? We've got Spike, Brandy B, Crumpet, Tutankhamun Rabnox, Dang Nabbit, and a bunch of other people in. Who was the first comment? The first comment of the day was Rab. How are you doing, everybody? Okie dokie. So, this show does not exist without questions from you. Well, let me quickly get this running. The first question of the day is actually a bit of a doozy, really, because there are a million ways to do all of these things, and that is, well, it's always up for argument, isn't it? Anyhow, this is a question from Crevery, who is he's currently working this evening. He's normally a moderator on the chat, but he says, okay, which factors can be worked on to reduce string action? On my treble side, the action is absolutely fine, but I can't get it low enough on the bass side without buzzing. What is your order of operations when setting up a guitar? And just as an FYI, his something else that he did, which has happened to me many times, is he had the guitar itself was shorting out electronically, and it turned out that the jack socket was shorting out on the shielding paint that was inside of the hole drilled for the jack socket, and it was a bit of a problem. That has happened to me multiple times. I will sometimes very loosely wrap the jack socket itself in electrical tape, or just not shield inside that cavity. But anyway, so when I'm setting up an instrument, the first thing I do is make sure that the truss rod is adjusted to the point that I've got a slight amount of curvature in the neck. I don't want the neck to be absolutely perfectly flat. I want, and I never measure these things. It's by feel at this point, but it's probably 0.5 millimeter or less of a gap. So if you hold the string down at the first fret and at the last fret and have a look and see how much of a bow you've got. That is what I do first. After that, I move on to the nut and the saddles. Now, if you adjust the nut and take the nut slot down to as low as you need it, i.e. you hold the string down at the 3rd fret, tap down at the 2nd fret, and wow. Hold the string down at the 2nd fret and then push down on the string, and you want a very, very small gap there. But if you do that when the action at the saddle, at the bridge, is massively high, then it will be too low once you've adjusted the saddle. So eyeball the saddle, make sure that is down relatively low, then go and work on the nut, and keep an eye on both of these things. And in the end, you should, as long as your fret job is right, you should end up with a relatively low action and little to no buzz. Now, other things to consider, the fret job really is the most important bit. Go back with a fret rocker and double check, make sure that you don't have any high frets or any issues in that case. Now, sometimes you'll have a rogue fret, and while you are leveling, it will level down and then pop straight back up again because it's not being glued in place or is not properly seated if you don't use glue. Bear that in mind. That's something that has caught me and many people out many, many times. Another, if you do continue having issues with buzz as you play up the neck, is to create some fall away from the 15th or 16th fret down as you go, and there are videos about that. But essentially, I will put a couple of pieces of masking tape at the 12th fret, i.e. I will pile up a couple of pieces of masking tape. I'll use a leveling beam, half of which has also been masked off so that I'm not leveling, well, I'm not rubbing sandpaper onto the masking tape that I've just put at the 12th fret, and that will kink the leveling beam up by half a degree or something and will lower the frets. That allows for the string motion as you're playing higher up and reduces buzzing again. Now, the real question is, how important is a super low action? And I make guitars and greetings, salutations, all that jazz. Are we back? I sincerely hope that we're back. Hello? Let me know if we're back. So apparently I was talking about Fall Away. Woohoo, we're back. Yay! How's it going? All right. So Fall Away. If you create Fall Away, then that essentially the way that the string works. If you're playing a chord up at the nut, and you strum your string where you normally strum the string, it vibrates, and the bulk of the vibration is in the center of the string. As you shorten the string by playing at the 5th, the 7th, and the 12th frets, etc., you're sort of compressing where that movement is. And at the 12th fret, that movement is around about the 15th or so. And Fall Away there, it seems a bit counterintuitive, but that reduces string buzz as you're playing up at the dusty end. But anyway, we're here. We lost a bunch of people. Anyway, okay, welcome. Guess who's back again? Ben is back. Tell a friend. Thank you, Brandy. I've just got I've just got Eminem and 8 Mile and all that in my head today for some reason. But anyway, okay. Okay, so the real question is, how important is a super low action? It got stuck there. And I don't think it is. I really think that a slightly higher action and probably even slightly chunkier strings makes for a better sounding guitar for the sort of music that I like listening to for the most part. But anyway, Brandy B has sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. First super chat of the evening. And if anybody else desperately needs for me to see their question or would just like to show their support, then super chats are the way to guarantee that I will see it. Brandy B says, with wood getting too spendy, what would be your go-to material to replace wood for guitar building? I don't think that in our lifetimes wood is going to be, in general, too expensive in order to make a guitar. It depends. It does depend on what the final, what you're trying to create. But pound for pound, the alternatives are more expensive. For example, carbon fiber is hugely expensive. You could create... yeah. Okay. That being said, and taking that as a given, what would be my go-to materials to replace wood for guitar building? Initially, paper, which is obviously a wood-based product. I think that you could make micarta using paper and /or fabric, and in fact we're looking into that at the moment as a viable thing. I would very much like to recycle old clothes instead of sending them to landfill, and old books for exactly the same reason. Now, obviously, there are old books worth keeping, and then there's holiday smut that just gets pulped, basically. I would like, instead of pulping, to turn them into guitars. The issue with that is glues and the ecological issues that you get with that. So, that being said, carbon fiber is a valid option. Okay, resin and plastics, from a tone point of view, yeah, fantastic. From a weight point of view, you'd have to do something. Using an autoclave, for example, which is a giant oven slash vacuum slash spinny thing, you could use that to make a hollow instrument, and people do. That has the characteristics of the resins and the carbon fibers and all that jazz, but they're massive and they're very expensive. Upcycled old material. Yeah. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other thoughts or anything else that I've missed. Metals are an option. Plastics are an option, i.e. recycled and upcycled plastics. And in fact, I have got a collaboration coming at some point in the not too distant future, I hope, with a YouTube channel called Brothers Make. And they're actually very local to me, and they upcycle and recycle and create things out of plastic. Check them out if you haven't yet. It's awesome to watch, and I want to make a guitar using something that they've created. So there we go. Anthony Cunliffe says, hello, I'm putting together my first design and I'm really toying with using Jaguar style roller wheels instead / in place of normal volume and tone knobs. Would you advise against this? No, I would not. I think that would be cool as. Yeah. Oftentimes, we stick with the traditional just because it's traditional. We stick with the boring because, hey, this is the control knob that this kind of guitar should have, etc. But I think go crazy. Jaybird Customs, how's it going? Says, any tips on shaping a volute? Autocorrect changed that to volume, and he quickly got in and said volute, not volume. Okay. It's very difficult to talk about without actually showing, but volutes. I use either a good rasp or an Iwasaki curved rasp, depending on the wood. But okay. The highest point of the volute needs to be behind the nut, with it immediately going down so that the entirety of the neck is one straight plane, up until, say, the last quarter of an inch where it goes up to meet the highest point of the volute. That means that you've got the most amount of strength possible behind the nut, which is where it's liable to break, because that's also where you've got a great big hole for your truss rod access. Other than that, it's just a case of carving, which is difficult. It's difficult to talk about at the very least. So, yeah. Make a curve that you like the look of and go for it. My favourite volute, actually, so far of all time, was on Nebula, who still hasn't been delivered. That is due soon, I hope. Where, it's just a pretty curve, and I curved it down and I did some carving with a gouge and with the rasps and things. And if you go back and watch that video, that's the tutorial on how to do that. But yeah. Alan Barnes says, Ben, could I use auto body fiberglass to make the back and sides for an acoustic? Yes, absolutely. Charles Kamen, the gentleman, the mind, the brain behind Ovation Guitars, played around with that. I'm not entirely sure they've given it some fancy schmancy name, whatever they use, but in reality it's basically that. So yeah, Ovation ballback guitars, that's how it's done. I have seen instruments made entirely out of carbon fiber, which is the same process. It's not something that I have expertise or even experience doing. I've thought about it a lot, and I've watched various videos and processes of people doing similar things. I think that in order to Well, you would need a mold basically, and if you're doing a fully enclosed, you mentioned back and side, but if you're doing back, sides, and top, I would you would need some sort of a loss wax process or something like that. An alternative is to create a mold that you carve out of polyurethane foam or something like that, insulation foam, that then will melt away if necessary, or just be a lightweight component that reduces standing waves and feedback and stuff like that. Many ways to do it. Brandy B came back and said recycled wood, and I think recycled wood is the prime thing for many, many, many years. If we stop being able to find good wood to use, then it would be recycled wood, old desks and stuff like that. But that being said, if you're building an instrument today, you're spending probably a minimum of £200 or £300 on hardware and pickups alone. And even if the price of wood has doubled from this is where I show my age. I remember when a body was 20 quid and a top was 20 quid, and that was it. It's probably closer to a couple £100 now for really nice wood. But even if it's doubled to £400, you're still it's an incredibly important part of the build. It's visually incredibly important, and people will pay it, I think. So, but yeah, recycled wood is a thing. Okay. Spike, Frugal Fixer Guitars. Have you changed your name again? I don't think there was a comma in it last week. Building my first neck. Tempted to do some inlays. Woohoo. But I think it will overcomplicate the build. Yeah. But that never stops people. And the dugout acoustic is complicated enough already. Complicating your life. Simplicating your life. Doing that is a way to learn. I wouldn't be making YouTube videos if I wasn't pushing myself in every single build and experimenting, and that actually puts some people off watching what I do, because much of what I do is about teaching, but it's about finding where those boundaries are, and I find that very fun, and there is a real chance of me irrevocably messing up an instrument while I'm doing it. And that's part of the fun. So complicate your life and go for it, I would say. Mr. Waffles... Honestly, Mr. Waffles, I saw the words human bone. I wasn't sure what the context was. Mr. Waffles has suggested to use human bone for guitar building. And says, my suggestion to use human bone for guitar building shocked people into silence. Let's unwrap that. Not the human bone. So there are many, many books bound in pigskin, and there are some books bound in human skin. There's a company I saw recently who will take the tattoos of your former family member and frame them for you. That makes me want to throw up in my mouth. But, there we go. I don't think the world is ready for that level of sort of a circular thing. We're just not. That being said, I want to, if and when I die, big if, yeah. I would like my organs to be used. I've got good eyes. I'd like my eyes to be used, if possible, to help somebody who can't. My heart and all of that jazz. And if, in exactly that same vein, why not take some of my bones and make a guitar nut or something? I mean, on the face of it, it's not that much different. It's nowhere near as necessary as somebody getting a donated heart or kidney or whatever. But crikey. Okay. Inky Guitar says, hey Ben, how do you design inlays? I really struggle with that. I spend a lot of time on Reddit browsing the art subreddits, the design subreddits, tattoo subreddits and things like that. And it's literally just a case, I'm always looking at pretty things. And I'm always looking for pretty things. And I will screenshot or download photos and images and stuff like that. And when I need an inlay, and I don't know what I want to do, or a client hasn't commissioned anything in particular, I will just go through and have a look at the mood board of hey, I thought this idea was cool 4.5 years ago. Let's do it. And sometimes it turns into an entire guitar. My GGBO, the first GGBO guitar I built, was based on an image that I don't have a copy of, but it was a whale that essentially was sliced up into slices, and it just looked really cool. And I built a whole guitar based on that one image that was stuck in my head. So that's what I do. I surround myself, I constantly look and check out pretty things and hope that I hope that it works out all right, because creatively I am not good at originating images. It's not how I'm wired. I can take something that exists and then change it and mold it and move it about and do something that then works. But the initial base idea, that is always external to me. Just the way it is. Heart of Oak, how's it going, Heart of Oak? Evening, Ben. Hello from sunny Ottawa, plus 10 degrees C. How's the family doing? They're not bad. Not bad at all. It was my mother's 70th today. In fact, she often replies on the main channel. She works for us, fielding comments and checking the general mood. So, you might see her if you're active in the comments on the main channel. I actually made the start of this chat. My wife saw your image and said you were a smart thank you. I spent the day out with my mother, and it's cold in here, so I kept the jacket on. In fact, merch, people, merch. There's hats and beanies and things. That shadow doesn't work. Hold on. Okay, so wife said I'm a smart dresser. Thank you very much. Now you'll have to maintain that image. Oh, hell no. This is a workshop thing. Here you go. I love the fact that I'm wearing a beanie with the same logo that I've got on my head on. There we go. How's that? Anyway, there's a limited amount of these in the Crimson Guitar store at the moment, and I think it's all 15% off this week if you use the coupon that was mentioned in yesterday's video. Now I'll have to maintain that image. Question: we've leveled the frets and now are trying to crown them using a crowning file with three sizes? Or three sides. What would you recommend for what looks like medium jumbo frets? Small, medium, or large? Okay. It sounds to me, and this was via Discord, I think. It sounds to me like you have one of those crowning files that has a half circle in it, and that has teeth, basically. So the issue with that is, one, the height of the fret. You need to make sure that the bottom sections of that file are not touching your fretboard, and the width of it, you need to make sure that it is not essentially cutting too narrow. So unfortunately, the answer is which one fits without those two issues. You need to be able to hit the sides and not the top, and you need to not be touching the fretboard, because that hurts the fretboard and is an absolute nightmare to clean. Okay, so go slowly. If that is the type of fret crowning file you're using, and not a traditional triangular crowning file, such as we sell at Crimson Guitars, the other issue is that while you are working, you cannot see the top of the fret. You basically have to stop at every single or every other stroke to make sure that you haven't gone too far and obliterated the permanent marker on the top of the fret. And it's often not in the center of the fret that you find an issue. As you go over, you tend to take a little bit more material on the at the extremes at either end of the fret, and that is where you remove too much material and suddenly you've got a low spot and you have to re-level the whole fretboard. Go slow, go careful, and you should be okay. Magic Gaz. Hi Ben, what's the best way to remove the finish from a poly Epiphone Les Paul? Veneer top in mind. I want to try and keep that. Sanding or heat gun? I'm a bit scared of scraping it. Okay. Fire and slash or heat gun is probably the quickest way. Keeping the veneer top is just so scary. What I would do is start on the back of the instrument. It's the same thickness and species of varnish. See what happens with heat on the back. If you are very, very lucky, while doing that, you'll get to a point where you know exactly how much to use, when to stop, and you could, it has been known, you could get the entire chunk of lacquer or varnish just to pop off in one sheet, and that is what you want. If doing that you feel comfortable with attacking the top and you're not too worried about the veneer, then crack on and do that. Scraping is an option. The first time I ever did that with an instrument, I used a 10-inch, I think, hunting knife that was beautiful and sharp. I had no other use for a hunting knife than to attack a guitar with it because, you know, I'm arty and don't like gutting things. Controversial much. Sanding is another option. It really is. Take it slow, take it careful, and yeah, have at it. But yeah, a heat gun should be the best way. And even actually a blowtorch judiciously applied could work. Barry Christian saw on the TV that somebody is using compressed wheat stalks for building houses, and it's fireproof, so you wouldn't be able to burn it. I'll get a t-shirt made saying, I am Bernard. We are all Bernard. With a sort of a guitar on fire or something. It's probably a little bit too in-joking, yeah? Yes, actually, that's a really, really good point. A byproduct of farming that otherwise, I suppose, goes to feed cattle. I don't know what happens to wheat stalks other than cattle. But anyway, yeah, that sounds really good. Electric Lady Guitars Devon UK says about 80 years to grow maple to a usable size for a 3-piece body, so not so gloomy if thinned as a nurse tree to allow surrounding trees to reach maturity. I really do need to spend some time with you. SJ says, I have an early 70s Gibson J40 with celluloid binding, leprosy / disintegration. Replacement binding material options? I don't know what the actual material is, but All Parts UK cell binding and poly something probably. But that's the one. It's tried and tested and true and it comes in all the normal colours that you would require. My gosh. Questions. Hugh McKay, next Saturday, Scotland versus South Africa. Who gets your support? Basket on Crimson website depends on the answer. Oh my gosh. Can I abstain? I personally do not follow any sports of any sort whatsoever. So, and I'm torn. I lived in South I am not South African, but my blood is sort of a mixture of Canadian and Scottish. But yeah, since actual money is riding on this, I'm just going to abstain and say, yeah, neither. Mr. Waffle says, was the coupon 10 or 15%? I'm pretty sure it's 15% off. But yeah, it's in the... it's in yesterday's video. Okay. Divergent Guitars on our Discord says, hey Ben, for my current build I am using a tunematic bridge. I often see them installed at a slight angle, so the lower strings have a slightly longer scale length. Should I do this too? Yes. How do you decide on the angle? It's a length, so essentially you want your bass string to be about 2 millimeters longer than the nominal scale length. So the nominal scale length, let's assume you're making a Les Paul, it's 629 millimeters. You would want the saddle to be bang in the middle of its travel, so you can go either way, and then physically move the bridge so that saddle is 2 millimeters further away from your nominal scale length, so 631 millimeters. And I generally leave the high E or the treble E either bang on the scale length or 1 millimeter shorter, and that allows you to have enough movement either way for example, somebody who goes for really, really beefy, I don't know, 50 gauge, 52 gauge, something like that, or slinkies. So yeah, but it is something that I would suggest it does need to be done. Stephen Clark says, that hat looks great. I remember suggesting that beanie a couple of months ago, but never imagined it looking that good. Thank you very much. Maybe it was because of your suggestion that it was made. I certainly had nothing to do with it. I was shown an image and given the veto, and I was like, no, make it, please make it. So yeah, and I've been wearing this non-stop. So there we go. Neil Jelks, check me out, all tardy and late. That's all good. It's all good. Now, hand plane. What did I see? I saw the word hand plane. Oh, I don't know. It hasn't frozen. I've just run out of words. Disco Stew says, I've absolutely battered that discount code today. I'm a sucker for a deal. Thank you very much. So am I. I was at Clark's Village today, which is sort of a shopping outlet in Somerset where you get... It's a bunch of factory shops, basically. And, yeah, fun times. You can't beat a quality item at half price, can you, really? Now, Inky Guitars says he likes looking at manuscripts for inspiration. That's a cool thing. I've got books from going from architecture to antique ironwork to glass making to jewelry making and all that stuff, and it's just pictures of beautiful things. I spent last night looking through a bunch of photography manuals from the 1950s, just looking at beautiful photographs that people have made. You know, architecture, boobies, more architecture, a field, boobies. I need to put those on the upper shelf, actually. It's really good books, but I also have a teenage son-ish, almost. Gramasau and Fretboard says there is a guitar made of a human skeleton already. Had the potential to be the most heavy metal guitar ever. It's a Telecaster. It's called a Skelecaster. Okay. I hope that that's not the case. I do hope that's not the case. Anyway, Disco Stew says, hi Ben, without a proper drill press, is the only way to drill holes square to the body simply just to practice? I'm thinking string through tunematic holes, etc. Wow. Okay, tunematic holes are not that deep, and you should be able to get that right. I'm I'm pretty good. The heater is kicked in. I'm pretty good at. I'm pretty damn good at drilling straight. I've done it a hell of a lot, and I would not do it for string through body by hand. No, not a chance. If I had to do it without a drill press, or whatever else they're called, crikey, then I would make a jig. I would use a longer drill bit, and I would have a steel jig or something to hold the drill bit itself square. And there are drilling templates in existence that can be used. So yeah, I would try that. At the very least, sorry, it doesn't even have to be a piece of steel with a hole drilled in it, because hey, how do you drill that hole perpendicular? You could take two pieces of square wood that you know are square, screw them together or glue them together so that you've got a right angle corner, cut them at right angles and make sure that they're cut at right angles, and hold that up, and then just use that as a guide to make sure that you're going as close as you can to perpendicular to the top, and you'll be sorted. All right. Rab Knox says at Hugh McKay, why would he support us? WID. Frankly, the bulk of my ancestors come from Scotland. So, and I really don't give two shits about South Africa. So, the answer is Scotland, of course. But anyway. Plus, they're a whole hell of a lot closer. Okay. Uli John's Sky Guitar. This is from Marco Rekchevik. Says, hey Ben, what do you think about Uli John's Sky Guitar? Isn't it the best guitar innovation for personal taste the last few decades? I'm afraid I don't have a clue. I'm going to have to check that out. I hate it when people ask me things about the guitar industry or particular makers, and I just don't know who they are or what they are. I spend the bulk of my time looking at people outside of the guitar world because for the first 10 years or so, I would imbibe every single guitar book, magazine imaginable in order to see what everybody else was doing in the industry. And I got to the point where I wanted to bring stuff in from outside. So I look at jewelers and watchmakers and ceramicists and glass blowers and stuff. Mr. Waffle says they sell cheap steel drill guides on the Jungle site. Stephen Clark says, I want to move to England from the US to work for you, but all you're hiring for is school tutors. I'm not qualified to teach, but would be great for a starting position in the production department. Hiring? ? So you don't have to be qualified to teach guitar building. You just have to be a good guitar builder and willing to teach. So that being said, yes, pillar drill, that's what Rabnock says. Yes, we do have various other jobs going. The problem is, unless you've already got the right to work in the UK, we're not able to do anything. It is so incredibly expensive for everybody involved to gain that right if you don't already have it, that we just don't bother. But that being said, always ask us the question. We're looking for teachers, we're looking for production people. I'm hoping I've got some serious plans for the custom shop. This next 3 or 4 months is going to be amazing. Like totally amazing. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, Hugh McKay says, is there a magic way to know how unbeefy, you can make a guitar so the string tension doesn't break it in half, especially for 7 or 8 string guitar, or even a hurdy-gurdy. Never going to make a hurdy-gurdy. I'm sorry, never. I mean, it is magic. It's all about feel, but just remember that acoustic guitars are made out of wood. And there's not that much wood there. Wood is a whole hell of a lot stronger than most people give it credit for. And you can remove a lot of it. I'm getting comments about my daughter's guitar that it's going to have neck dive. And I've only removed... I've removed some weight, and I've taken a very heavy guitar and made it into a normal weight guitar. There's no neck dive there. But also, I removed a hell of a lot of material, and then while trying to take a shot for Instagram of it, I dropped the whole guitar on the floor. It just smashed right to the ground, and there was no damage. Even though, well, it is ostensibly a little bit more delicate, but still, it's fine. Okay. Mr. Waffle says, is that an earring or a fuzzy? It must be a fuzzy. I haven't had an earring in for years. 15% off, Neil. Joel Shapiro, sorry to lose you this evening. Have a good one. Was that a tag dangling from the beanie? It's all gone now. Okay. Stephen Clark says, how long will the sale be going on for? I need to pick up a lot of finishes, but it'll have to wait a couple of weeks till after my wedding reception. Ho, 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 ho. Stephen, drop me an email through stream@crimsonguitars.com. Prove that you are who you are, and I will give you a personal coupon code for 20% off as a wedding present. Yeah, just stream at crimsonguitars.com and get in touch, and I will sort that out. This coupon for 15% off is only going to be valid this week. We are still struggling with stuff. Basically, this was not a planned thing. This was me saying, look, you know, I said I'd give somebody a coupon code who got the closest guess as to how much material I'd moved from this guitar. And we had like 1,000 comments. So, well, hey, let's open it up so that just everybody gets a discount. Tom and Sam and everybody are not impressed with me because we're struggling to keep up as it is due to everything going on at the moment. But there we go. Garage Master Guitar says, the suave model on the vid made me buy a beanie. Damn! Thank you very much. Tattoo cover-up? Fuzzy. Stephen Clark says, haha, he got distracted by the words handplane. I really did. Okay. Okay, come on then. Give me questions. Be warned, shallow tuners are heavy. I got neck dive once on a Dan Electro 12 string. Some shallow tuners are heavy. The Goto tuners that they're Goto locking tuners that were or / are on this guitar of Jasmine's, they're really heavy. In fact, I'm going to weigh them for the video. Here they are. This neck is super chunky. Yeah. Anyway. Stephen Clark's going to look into a work visa for the UK. Okay, look, so hi people. Okay, so I wasn't going to mention this, but I also have absolutely no self-control whatsoever. Just none. What I am planning on doing at Crimson Guitars at this stage is I'm taking over the whole production department. I'm ripping it out. I'm putting in a nice wooden floor, building 4 Luthiers pods, kind of basically the dream custom shop. In fact, it's going to look somewhat similar to, but better than the Fender custom shop. That sort of idea. You'll have a luthier. He or she has got their workshop with their tools on the wall behind them, a workbench. It'll be designed and built to film, so the channel will end up with more guitars, more builds going on, probably mainly super edits, i.e. a whole build in 45 minutes, more of that going on. Each one of these luthiers is going to have space for an apprentice or two. And space is going to be open for that apprentice to actually be a long-term student. So instead of a 3-month guitar building course being the only option at Crimson, we will have an option for somebody to come and study with us 2 days a week for a full year. Okay. The other 3 days a week, that person, if they are allowed to, will have the option to work in the production department at Crimson Guitars. For a long time, I have wanted to do a professional development course for luthiers. You want to be a guitar builder, you want this to be your career, you want to start a business in guitar building. What do you need to learn? Well, you need to learn how to do fretting. And in a 3-month course, building 3 or maybe 4 guitars, you fret 3 or 4 guitars. In a production department manufacturing kit guitars, we can make it so that you fret 20 guitars, 30, 40 guitars a month for 6 months. You will never forget how to fret a guitar, ever, if you do that. Leveling, crowning, polishing, sanding. Sanding is an art form. And we would, as it currently stands, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a person who is doing this thing, the initial month or 2 would be learning wood prep. It would be learning how we load our CNC machines. It would be learning how we dry timber and all of that jazz. They then move on to rough prep of timber. They move on to making guitar bodies. They then move on to kit guitar necks over a 6-month period, and then frets, crowning, polishing, all of that jazz. By month 9, hopefully they're building full customized kits with an option along the way to learn how to use the laser cutter and all of that jazz. And finally, by the end, hopefully, one of these students / apprentices would be working on our guitars, but learning how to do full custom handmade builds. That's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And building as many instruments and getting as much experience as physically possible. Thursday and Friday, it's essentially another 3-month course spread out over a year. You build whatever guitar you fancy building under the direct tuition of myself and the other luthiers in that room. What do you think? I'm really excited. Disco Stew has come in with another super chat and said, is there a handy tool / drill bit which can cut recessed tone or volume knobs similar to the PRS style? No. But what you can do is take a standard flat bit like this and grind it so that it's got the curve that you want, and then just use that. It's not a difficult thing to do, it should be done. Sanding, that will, because there is short end grain in there, that will create some tear out. You then need to make a tool to sand that, and that's another problem. I need to wrap my mind around that. I think there's something that I can do there. Hugh McKay says, damn, almost worth considering proposing to the missus for that, for the discount. Ivan Wizard, how's it going, Carl? Everything you just said is why I asked if I could do my college placement there next year. Ricky, read your emails. Ricky has had an issue. He doesn't have COVID, but somebody close to him does, and everything's fine at the moment. But he's been ever so slightly distracted the last week. I think that would be incredibly awesome. So come on, bring it on. Courier 11 seconds says, Ben, having seen what I imagine is at least close to all the content you have shared, you're insane. Thank you. You have a pattern of making extremely ambitious plans that seem like a dream and then doing it. I love it. Thank you. I love pushing myself. I love pushing myself. I really, really, really dislike the bandwagon where, for example, somebody says they're glucose intolerant and they don't have the first clue. I know people who really are. I've got people who work for me who really, really are. I've got wow, what's it called when you have an issue if something's not square or a picture's on the wall? And it's a bandwagon thing. It's just crazy. But the other day I was reading an article, I think it was, about entrepreneurs and business owners with obsessive compulsive disorder. That's the issue. OCD. Business owners, and now I've forgotten the other word, which is indicative of the issue I've got. Hold on. There's just no way, is there? Anyway. Ricky did get back to the email. Fantastic. Let me see if I can find this thing quickly. Sorry, this is not scintillating at all. ADHD, there we go. So here we go. This thing says, entrepreneurs with ADHD are often highly self-critical in nature and struggle with getting mundane work done. Other similarities include a profound fear of failure, a strong aversion to disappointing others, perfectionism, as well as significant challenges with managing money. Entrepreneurs with ADHD are highly creative and possess an uncanny ability to see opportunities not seen by those entrepreneurs without it. They're also frequently exceptional in their abilities to make people excited about and invest in their ideas. Do you guys fancy investing in Crimson? They can have excellent business instincts. However, admin work, contracts, paying taxes, and the mundane aspects of running a business is almost physically painful to them. Every single word of that is describing me, and I've always thought, yeah, maybe I've got ADHD or something like that, and that is like, holy crap, that is so me, and I'm not going to get the diagnosis or any of that bullshit. No, it's not bullshit. I don't feel the need to, and if I went and did that, I'd be taking a place out that some kid could who really needs it, but. I think that one of the reasons why I do what I do and the way I do it is that I crave your feedback and approbation, and I get a major kick. And the reason I get out of bed is because of what you guys give me by watching and commenting and all that jazz. And yeah, I get bored incredibly easy. So I always need something. Otherwise, I would rather just stay in bed till noon every day. Anyway. Is the picture not square? Ah, there we go. Alan Wood says there is a Crimson video on Piero style pottery. Says there is. That was made years ago, like almost a decade ago. Crikey. Okay. Now. Whoa. Okay, Spike says, I watched all the fire videos this week. What would be the effect on the inside of an acoustic or a thin line guitar of the fire treatment? Utter failure catastrophically. Only do Shusukeban on solid instruments, period. Unless it is carved out of a solid chunk of wood and you are very gentle. But any glue joint on anything thinner than, say, 10 or 15 millimeters, the absolute most, or thinnest, sorry, would, the glue joint would just fail and it would suck. Now, let me just have a quick look. Okay, so I'm right. There's only 2 super chats. I just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed anything. We're all good. We're all good. Okay. Matthew Barwick says, hey, I wanted to try a burnt guitar finish like Ben does in your videos. I have a quick question. Does the wire brush not leave lots of scratches in the guitar? If so, how to get rid of them? Use a suede brush. So a brush that you would get for cleaning up your suede shoes if you have any. And by the way, if you drop blue Crimson Guitar Stunning Stains on your suede shoes, they will stain them. And you will, cry. Don't wear new shoes in the workshop, people. Learn from my pain. So yes, I use a very fine brush. It's very fine brass bristles, and it's absolutely fine. A liming brush is another option, and yeah, there we go. Jaybird Custom says, when I worked for Gibson, I would cut binding slots for over 100 guitars a day. Yeah, you never forget how after a week of it. 100 a day is insanity. Greg Freeman says, I built a guitar in 1989 with no fingerboard radius. Okay. Floyd nut can't be altered. Easily. I'm thinking of radiusing the frets from 1st to 5th frets as opposed to pulling all the frets. I can send pics. I don't think that would work unless you've got a very high action, because unless you are adding material to the center of the fretboard rather than taking away from the edges, if you play at the 5th fret, the 6th fret is going to be much, much higher, and you will have an unplayable instrument. Honestly, your best bet is to ripple the frets out, radius the fretboard with a plane and slash or a radius block, and go from there. Marson of the Nuclear Village says, sounds like something for me. Stephen Clark says, I'm in, where do I sign up? Mr. Waffle says, it makes me wish I was younger. Bri W says, that sounds really interesting and good to watch. I'm expecting a lot of videos next year. I really am. Ben Timer says, that sounds amazing. No negatives so far. Fantastic. Uriah Shemesh says, sorry for asking again, I'm too cheap for super chats. It's no worry, honestly. Will you drill the same pattern into the headstock of your daughter's guitar? No. Maybe. I can't do it at the same size. I do think that it could look really cool with 8mm or 10mm holes. Why not? I hadn't considered that. Good idea. Okay, we are coming to an end. It's been an hour and I am knackered. But let's see what else we've got. There may well be some more questions on here. Nope, wrong. There we go. Spike. Ben, my local guy, does these huge slabs air dried over a couple of years. They measure to about 7 to 8% moisture. I'm getting cut-offs. At that moisture level, would sycamore or maple be ready to work? Absolutely. What is your favourite sycamore finish? A high gloss lacquer with some crimson guitar stains on it, to be honest. I'm looking at some now. But no, sycamore is, yeah, it can be anything. 7 to 8% moisture content being air dried means that you are in a very dry place. Sounds amazing. I wish that I was in something like that. There's a super cool video, I think, coming hopefully next week. Literally an hour or two of just us ASMR moving huge chunks of wood. I had a giant delivery of there's a timber yard that turns out they're not actually closing down apparently, but they divested themselves of a lot of their stock. And I bought a load of Fijian mahogany, like 4 5-inch thick, 20-foot long planks, and some wenge and sapiris and a load of American black walnut and all sorts of stuff. And I just set the camera up and we just got it off and moved it and put it in piles and things. So that's coming soon. Tutankhamun via Discord says, "Hi Ben, I'm currently building a Superstrat. I've managed to get bronze-coloured hardware for it. I've never used bronze-coloured hardware that actually came that colour. I should. The grain on the body is not so good, so stain isn't an option. Do you think painting it a bronze colour will be too much? It could be a little bit monochromatic, but that doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing, in my opinion. So, no, I think play with it. Black and bronze always works, so you could just burn it. Yeah. Wolf's Bane via Discord says, "Hey Ben, currently making a guitar with a maple fretboard. Would your high build guitar oil be good to finish this in? No. Or do you have any other suggestions? Melamine lacquer or the water-based guitar lacquer that we've got at Crimson would be better. Both of those are film finishes. You have to have something that sits. Oils penetrate the wood and then protect it that way, but with the playing, it's not good enough. And even with, for example, the melamine lacquer, you would have to build that up quite substantially in order to get long-term protection for your fretboard." Lewis Wingrove says, "I did my Schecter bass with your advice and she came out sweet. The company would have to build it better for her to be more accurate." Thanks, Ben. That's a pleasure. Thank you very much. And that's a really cool way of saying it. Stephen Clark says, yes. I already have the full support of the wife. She wants to move to England as much, if not more, than I do. Game on. Cool. OCD. It's all good, Ivan Wizard, no worries. Ben, vary the holes in your daughter's headstock bigger to the nut end, getting smaller towards the end of it. Oh, that could be cool, yes. Discos 2 says, "Are Crimson still looking to put into production the guitar shape you did for GGBO 21? Yes, we are. It's something we really, really do need to do and will do. If you're interested in one, drop me a line." Alan Barnes, "Can't wait to see more guitars built by Tom." Part of my process is I'm going to be teaching them how to film themselves quickly and easily. So, yeah. John Almas says, I find that using the superglue and masking tape trick on sandpaper for fretwork to be problematic. The accelerator leaves rock hard bumps, which is transferred to the fretboard or frets. Am I the only one? No, you are. Sorry, you are not. You're the only one. You're a special little snowflake. Said that to my sister this afternoon, and my son says, you do know that snowflakes are all individual and beautiful. It's like, yes, that's kind of what I meant. Okay, so the problem is you've got dots of superglue or a line of superglue that is raised up. You hit that with accelerator, plop them together, and you've still got that line. To avoid that, I will put the line on, then use the bottom of the superglue bottle to smoosh it all out flat, and then mask, accelerator, etc., and be done. Also, there are some masking tapes that are too spongy and thick. Generally, ones that are designed to go around corners. Those do not make for a very good fret leveling surface because it's so spongy that it goes over and around the frets and it just sort of moves with the fret rather than actually leveling them. Luthiers says, when are the mini card scrapers coming back in stock? And then puts in about 1 million exclamation marks. I'm not sure, but please drop us an email. I have had some deliveries recently and hopefully they should be coming, if they're not in, soon. Rab Knox says, Ben, is that wood ready to be used? Because I'm looking for some for my last build. Potentially. Some of it is, some of it isn't. Some really nice mahoganies. Like, oh my god. So exciting. Nick Guitar, what do you think about making a narrow but longer router plane with a 6mm chisel and using it for truss rod channel? Absolutely fine. Go for it. Okay. Nikitar's worried about how efficient and fast a plane can be at digging a 1 centimetre deep recess. You could pre-drill using a pillar drill or a drill press. I remember this time, but so the issue is that in reality, what you need is a plane with knickers, and if you're in the UK, that's funny. Essentially, what it is a plane with a blade on either side. You've got a 6mm tool, you've got a blade on either side, and what those blades on either side do is they cut the sides of the channel, so as the blade then goes behind them that's cutting all the material out, it's working in tandem with them and is not ripping grain out every which way. They used to be made that way. They used to be made that way hundreds of years ago, but we don't really get that anymore, and certainly not specifically for truss rod channels, etc. If I had to just use a chisel, I wouldn't actually even make a router plane. If it was a one-off, I would get a 1/4 inch chisel. I would use a scalpel blade or a sharp knife to score the sides of the channel, and then with a carver's mallet, I would carve along, and you can remove a lot of material and go for it. And then only right at the end would I use a router plane with a set depth to just smooth out the bottom. But there we go. Zach Ellison says, Ben, finding wood for $0 idea is to spend 1 or 2s at a dump or a landfill. Furniture is always thrown out. Previous chats, art direction. When I was 7, I won one of California's biggest art shows, and I'm still making dollars. That's awesome. And yes, I mean, I was at my local dump twice today. Picked up a book, picked up a painting, various other bits and pieces. That was yesterday. Crikey, twice yesterday. Anyhow. Okay. Mr. Zombie 170 says, Ben, do you have any planes from Philly Planes? No, I can't afford him. No, okay, rephrase. His planes are absolutely amazing. I could make them just as well myself if I had the time to do it. And one day I really, 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 really want to. I have got some planes by Bill Carter and various other handmakers, but not wooden planes. But the other thing is that I've got the Vintage Tool Shop, vintagetoolshop.com, and I have hundreds, if not thousands, of really good antique wooden planes. And yeah, I just don't need to go and spend that money on one made by a guy now when I've already got thousands and thousands and thousands of antique ones made by the guys back then. So anyway, Inky Guitar says, I want to do the apprentice thing. Who can do it? So the year course can be done by anybody, the 2 days a week, or I suppose it could be even full week if you can't get a work visa. If somebody outside of the UK wants to come in and do it, then that causes some problems because there are work permits and things for a long period, and that really needs to be looked at. And I don't know the answer to that yet. So I've been thinking about this for a while, trying to figure out how I could do it. And on the drive into Crimson the other day, it finally all coalesced. I was listening to a podcast about a violin maker and how they'd done their training. And then after they'd finished their training, they went and they worked in a prestigious violin repair shop in London. And it just clicked. And like, it's not just about the learning, it's about the doing, and it's about the doing under supervision. And I walked into Crimson like this. And Tom said, are you all right? And I said, I've had an idea. And he made a little noise. Like, did you just shit yourself? He says, no, I made a little noise, but what's your idea? And because my ideas sometimes cause trouble, much like this one. So anyway, there we go. It has not been thought through fully, which is why I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it tonight. But there we go. Alan Barnes says, talking about using CA glue or super glue for finishing the fretboard. It comes out real nice and smooth, but it takes a long time to sand and polish it. Very good point. Adam to Remember says, hi Ben, you actually asked gouges from your Les Paul top carving video many moons ago. How do you pick which blade size to get? On the number 6, for example, it can be from 1/16 of an inch to 3 inches. Generally about 3/4 of an inch is around about where I go. 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch is pretty much where you want to go. And that's just based on experience, really. Alfred Kane says, thanks Ben C. Your daughter guitar that you're doing is the same as I was going to do in my next GGBO. Now I will have to change my build. I'm so sorry. But you don't have to change it, really. Just say that you were going to do it beforehand and do it better than I can. It's not going to be difficult to do better than me. Okay. Lisa's asking for results of the survey. I haven't seen those yet. And I haven't seen Stephen this evening. I haven't seen Stephen this evening. Who put it all together. Okay, Ruben Benedict, this is the last question unless a super chat comes in. Ruben Benedict, hi Ben, have you ever made a Zematis style metal top guitar, and what are your thoughts on Zematis guitars and their unique look? I absolutely love them. I think that engraving is an art, and the way that they're currently done is not particularly arty. That's the sort of modern ones. Uh, I have made a metal top guitar. I've done a couple of copper tops before, and in fact, one was a carved Les Paul style copper top where I hand beat the Les Paul carve into the copper, which was fun because at that point I didn't know about, this was many years ago, I didn't know about work hardening or anything. So there we go. And I lied. There's one more question. Will Rossi says, any thoughts on the Katana fret leveling system for leveling frets under full string tension? It uses a truss rod to bow a long, narrow sanding surface to match the neck relief. It is a scam. It is a crock of shit. It is utterly without any merit whatsoever. It serves no purpose. It should be illegal. It does not, even if it works, even if it allows you to get the frets level in relation to each other, you then need to take the strings off in order to crown the frets. It's half-baked and really, really bloody stupid. Maliciously so, because it looks and sounds really clever at first blush. Ivan Wizard. And I quote, a wild super chat appeared. Thank you very much. Make a Krenov plane. Do it now. I've been waiting years. Fine. Okay. I'm doing more Tool Tuesdays. And there's another one. I'm doing more Tool Tuesdays. I'm working on my plans moving forward. I'm restoring a standing number 1 at the moment, actually, for fun. That'll be soon, but I need to make a plane. I've promised. I've got dozens of blades waiting and lots of wood, and it'll be a fun project that I really want to do. So yes, okay, fine, I'll do it. Rob Phoenix has sent £5. Thanks very much, Rob. And said, slow on the super chats tonight. It has been, but it's all good. Here's the investment you were asking for. No heating as boiler is knackered. More sanding is in order. I tell you, hand planing, milling timber by hand is a really good way to warm yourself up. My boiler stopped working 2 weeks ago, and I've only been in this property for a couple of years. And I finally managed to get a boiler repair guy out. The first one came out and said, "Oh, it's an oil boiler. We're not trained for oil boilers." Your bloody office could have bloody told me. And then the actual guy qualified to look at oil boilers came out and said, "Well, you know, I'm gonna have to replace this, and that, and this. We might as well just do the whole boiler." And I'm like, "Okay, hold on. How much would it be if you replaced these 4 parts that you just said?" "Oh, £250 maybe." Like, well, man, seriously, the whole boiler system to replace that's going to be about £4,000, and it's going to take you what, a month? He said 6 weeks. So 6 weeks and £4,000 to £5,000 to replace it, or £250 for parts. Which one do you think I want to go for? It's like the parts. Well, I said, damn right, I'd rather spend £1,000 than £5,000. And the next thing I know, literally half an hour later, he's had the parts out of his van that he already had in his van, fixed the boiler, and it was working. Ah! Anyway, look, thank you very much for the super chat. They do help. I mean, I would lie if I didn't say that it was part of the reason why I enjoy doing these things. But it's also, just cool talking to you guys. I hope your boiler I hope it's something that can just be fixed. Fight them if the repair person, well, I don't know. Good luck. Anyway. Okay, Courier11 says, looking at the work visa requirements, definitely out of reach for folks like me and me, really. Also, I totally agree about that $100,000 Plex snake oil machine. Oh, that's a totally different machine. But yes, that's another thing that I have an issue with. Quite frankly, a human being can level, crown, and polish roughly the same sort of speed, if not maybe a little bit slower. But I'd rather give a job to a person, wouldn't you? Okay. Stephen Clark says, no Joe tonight. That guy's super chat game puts us all to shame. It really does. He's amazing. Okay. Now, crooks in every trade. That's Spike the Frugal Fix. I mean, at least he did give me the option. He was somewhat surprised when I went for the repair, but it was like, and he was like, "Oh, your flue might have a leak." And I looked at it, and it's just a piece of steel with a weld at a 90-degree weld. I was like, honestly, man, I know people that can just make a new one for me if it really is a problem. I'll just get another one made. So there we go. Rob Phoenix says it was only installed 2 months ago. Engineer on the way tomorrow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, good luck with that. And in the meantime, yeah, planing and sanding, and you should be okay. Matt Lang, I've missed the start of your thing. You guys seem to be talking about necks for children, narrower and all that. I've got yeah. Anyway. Upsetting from Zach Ellison, that's correct. Rabnox is back down to Dorchester next weekend, ready for another stint at Crimson. We're looking forward to it. Okay. Well, look, guys, I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you very, very much for your support. I really do appreciate it. And you have given me a lot to think about, actually, because I hadn't even considered my new system and people from outside of the UK. I wonder if there's a way to... I don't think there's a way to work around the work requirements, but maybe we could do something. We'll think about it. Okay, everybody, you rule. Have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic week. Hit like, subscribe, all that nonsense. And yeah, keep well. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Cheerio.